Hey everybody, I'm Joe, and in this video we are going to learn how to build and level up characters for the Marvel Multiverse TTRPG. Here we go. When this game was still in playtesting, I did a series of videos on building and leveling up characters, but there have been enough changes between playtest material and the core rulebook now that it has been published that I feel a new video to update all of those guidelines is really necessary. So if you are getting into the Marvel Multiverse game and looking to build your first characters, you are in the right place. Obviously, when you build a character, the things that we all think about are, what kind of a person is this? What flavor do I want to achieve with this character? What are the concepts that I want to go after with this particular character? And I'm going to leave all of that dreaming up of the character to you. You're the player. You know what kind of a character you want to build. But when you come to the table wanting to build it, we are going to now look at how to take the mechanics of the game and make your vision come to life. So make sure you've got an idea of what kind of a character you want to achieve. There are so many traits and so many powers that you're never going to have nearly any large percentage of them. Instead, you want to have one core idea of one main thing that you do particularly well. I'm going to assume you have that at your disposal. The first thing to talk about is rank. There are 6 ranks in this game. Now, for purposes of this video, I'll assume that we are starting at rank 1 and moving on through the ranks to rank 6, but you might be starting a game at different ranks. You might be telling an Avengers style story, which is going to be ranks 3 and 4, or you might be looking at a story of defending a whole planet and it might be just ranks 5 and 6. Talk to your narrator and know what rank you're going to build for, but the process will be the same. We're just going to assume we start at rank 1. Now, the very first thing you want to do, even before deciding powers or anything like that, is decide 2 major aspects of your character's backstory, and these are occupation and origin. Your occupation is, what does the character do? And the reason this is important to decide is that occupations oftentimes come with traits and tags. So let's get into those. A tag is a description of your character or some aspect of your character's life, and that tag is for narrative purposes. It does not provide a mechanical advantage in game, but it's good to add and remove tags throughout your character's career so that you're telling a more interesting and nuanced story. But the main reason we need to decide our occupation at this point is because of traits. Traits are things that describe aspects of your character's personality or backstory, but they have a mechanical advantage. For instance, a trait situational awareness means that your character is very aware of the world around him or her, but mechanically it provides an edge on initiative rolls. When you choose your occupation and your origin, these 2 things come along with specific traits and tags. Any traits and tags that come with your occupation or your origin are immediately added at the beginning of your character's career. You might find when you take a look at origins or occupations that certain powers are listed. These are not free. The powers associated with your occupation, or more specifically your origin in most instances, are recommendations that you could take in order to be thematically linked to the rest of the Marvel Multiverse. You do not have to take them. They are recommendations, but they do count against the number of powers total you get to choose. The next thing you're going to do is decide ability scores. So let's look at the ability scores for a character and what each one of these things does. It's important to note when you're building your character that there's no such thing as, mechanically speaking, a check to do something outside of combat and do something inside of combat. These are all called action checks. An attack roll is a type of action check, though some powers grant benefits to non-attack action checks. You can get into that as you look at specific powers. So instead, we just take a look at a melee-based action check, be that an attack or simply an attempt to push open a door that's jammed shut. Those would both be melee action checks. So at this point, we need to take a look at 6 particular types of abilities. They are your melee ability, your agility, your resilience, your vigilance, your ego, and your logic. Melee has to do with anything up close and personal. If I'm trying to push open a door, lift something heavy, or make an attack that is what is called at reach, which is within your character's actual physical reach, that is a melee attack. Please note that in this game, it does not matter if it is really strength-based, punching somebody, or more wielding a blade, something like a sword or a knife. Those things are all considered to be melee attacks. This is a slight change if you were accustomed to the playtest rulebook or other game systems. Agility is your ability to dodge out of the way of something, do something we might call acrobatic, or your ability to use ranged weapons. If you are using a ranged weapon power set or a ranged weapon, you're going to be using agility to make your attacks. The next is resilience. Now, resilience is nothing you can attack with. You don't make resilience attacks, though you do have a resilience defense score. More on that in a minute. But your resilience is how you have hit points. Specifically, your max HP at any rank is equal to 30 times your resilience ability score. So we want to make sure we have a reasonable resilience score because that's how we have actual HP in the game. Now in Marvel Multiverse, there are actually 2 fuel tanks that run your character. One is your health or your HP, which is of course fueled by your resilience. The second is your focus, and this is created by your vigilance score. Specifically, your total focus or max focus is equal to 30 times your vigilance ability score. Focus is used to fuel powers, specifically powers that do really good stuff. Any of the best powers in the game ask you to expend focus in order to fuel them. So don't let vigilance be, frankly, your dump stat. You cannot make attacks using resilience or vigilance, but you can make attacks, depending on your powers, with ego and logic. Ego is going to be your ability to make persuasion or deception checks, the presence that you have in a room, but some powers and power sets are also using ego as their attack bonus. The same is then true for logic. This is your ability to deduce important things, to investigate specific places, to work with technology, but there are also many powers and power sets that use logic as your attacking mechanic. Ability points are pretty straightforward in this game. There's no rolling dice for ability points. This is a point-buy system. Every rank you get 5 points to spend wherever you want it. But you most importantly want to put points into whatever your attack stat is, be it melee or agility or logic, but you also want to fuel your resilience for HP and your vigilance for your focus. Those are your 3 most important stats in this game. Every rank you get 5 ability points to spend, but at rank 1 you also get an additional question. If you want to, you can choose to take an ability score and go into negative territory, up to a -3. If you take an ability score and go into negative territory, you can expend those same points somewhere else. But you do have a cap for the ability score that you can have with any one of your abilities. Specifically, it is 3 plus your rank. What this means is that at rank 1, your ability scores can be no higher than 4 per ability score. But if you want to go into negative territory with some of them, you are welcome to do so, giving you at rank 1 somewhere between 5 and 8 points to spend. So you're going to spend these points, and the 3 most important stats, as we said, are whatever you make your attacks with, which is going to be melee, agility, ego, or logic, resilience for your HP, and vigilance for your focus. You get 30 points of health for every point of resilience and 30 points of focus for every point of vigilance. However, if you have a 0 in either your vigilance or in your resilience, you do not get a 0 health or 0 focus. Instead, you get a 10. That is the minimum number that you can have in either of those stats. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at your defenses. One of the key aspects of this game is you do not have one armor class, or in this game it is your defense score. Instead you have 6. People can attack any of the 6 aspects of your character. Melee attacks, agility attacks, vigilance attacks, and so forth. It's very easy to calculate the base number for your defense. It is always 10 plus the ability score. So if I have a 1 in my agility at rank 1, I would have an 11 for that defense score. If I have a -3, then of course I would have a 7 for the defense score. Powers and traits and other aspects of the character can change the defense score, but the initial defense score is simply 10 plus the ability score. So at rank 1, you are going to have between 5 and 8 points, spend them wherever you want, and then add 10 to each one of the ability score numbers, and you'll get your defense scores. You can modify these with powers and traits later on if that becomes appropriate to your character. We now have our abilities and we have our defenses, but we're going to make sure that we have the traits and tags we want. So you added traits and tags from your occupation and your origin. Any additional tags that you want, feel free to simply add them. There is no limit to the number of them that you can have. However, you do get one additional trait. And remember, traits are the ones that have a mechanical advantage. Add one additional trait for every rank that you obtain. This means that as you obtain ranks, you're going to add 5 more ability points, update your defense scores, and add 1 trait. And now we need to take a look at powers. A superhero is just not a superhero without powers, and so we need to know how to add powers to our characters. There's a bunch to choose from. It's the majority of the rule book. Take some time going through it. But the main thing to understand is that powers are clumped together in something called power sets. Powers that are thematically linked together, like having control over your flexibility, your plasticity, or perhaps having spider powers. These are thematically connected powers, and thematically connected powers are lumped together in something called a power set. You can be in a number of power sets that is equal to your rank. In fact, at rank 1, you need to purchase your way into one power set, but you don't need to go into a new power set with each rank. More on that in a second. What's key to understand is that in order to take a power, you must be in that power set. There's only one exception to that rule, and it is the basic power set. Some powers are generic and they just don't fit inside of a thematically linked power set. Things like adding to your accuracy or your melee ability. These things are just more generic, and that is a basic power set. The basic power set does not count against the number of power sets you can be in. So at rank 1, choose one power set that seems thematically appropriate to your character, and you can choose powers inside of that power set and the basic power set. Every time you obtain a new rank in this game, you can choose to enter into a new power set. More on that decision in a second, but that means the number of power sets, excluding the basic power set, that you can be in can never be higher than your rank, but it can be lower. Let's take a look at a power to understand the aspects of it. So we're going to have the power set that a power is in, any prerequisites that it has, the action economy it uses in order to actually activate the power, how long it lasts, and its cost. Let's get into these one at a time. For example, I'm going to be taking a look at the power Blink Barrage, which is in the teleportation power set. As we take a look at Blink Barrage, first it says that the power set is teleportation, meaning in order to take this power, you must be in the teleportation power set. No problem there. This has 2 prerequisites. The first is another power, and it is the Blink power. So you must have taken Blink at some point in order to take Blink Barrage. Now, you can take Blink and Blink Barrage at the same rank if you meet all other prerequisites. There's no problem with that, but you must have Blink to take Blink Barrage. The other prerequisite is that you must be a rank 2 character in order to take Blink Barrage. So that means there are 2 prerequisites. You must meet both of them to take the power. Next, we take a look at the action economy that is used in order to engage this power. This has two different actions that you could do, a movement action or a standard action. Every turn in Marvel Multiverse consists of an action, a movement, and potentially a reaction during someone else's turn. We're going to ignore reactions for right now. Action is a thing that you can do. Movement is simply a form of movement, and there are many forms of movement in the game. You get movement and action on every turn that you have in an initiative order. Blink Barrage allows you to initiate and utilize this power using either an action or movement. Some powers are only a standard action in order to engage them. Some are maintained by only using your movement, but this power allows you to choose. We have now the duration, and there are several durations in this game. An instant duration means it happens immediately after you engage the power using your action, or in the case of Blink Barrage, your movement. That's no problem. You also have powers that are maintained. These are concentration powers, and they stay up until you remove concentration from them. There are also powers that are simply always on, and these are things that change your physical traits, your aspect of the character itself. So the duration is going to be spelled out. That's how long this power lasts. A little interruption here. This is Joe from the future, thus the change in shirt. I have been editing this video and realized I forgot two things regarding understanding powers, and I'm going to add them in right now. First, I forgot reactions. A reaction is something you can do possibly during your turn, but more often during someone else's turn, and unless you pick up additional powers or traits, you get one reaction per round of combat. Anyway, a reaction power must be triggered by something. All powers that are reactions have a triggering event, such as being the target of an attack. So if a power has an action economy of a reaction, it will always list the triggering event that must happen in order for you to be able to use that particular power. The second thing that I forgot to mention is range. So if we have an attack that happens at a range, which means outside of the reach of your character, then there is going to be some kind of a range where this is a normal attack. Here's the way that ranges work. The range value that you have is the distance that you can absolutely do the particular power or attack. Let us say that you have a range of 10 spaces, which is going to be 50 feet. If the target is 50 feet or closer to you, you can make the attack as normal. If, on the other hand, the target is between 51 and 100 feet away, in other words, up to double your range distance, the attack can still be made, but now it is with trouble. If the target is more than double your range's distance away, the attack cannot be made at all, and if you even try, it will automatically fail. The last aspect is the cost. Cost is always in terms of focus. We must expend, in this case, 5 points of focus in order to utilize Blink Barrage. Spend 5 points of focus and use either your standard action or your movement, and you can engage Blink Barrage inside of your initiative turn. What's key to know right now as we are building a character is that we must meet all the prerequisites for a power in order to take it. So, at rank 1, we get 4 powers that we get to choose. So choose 4 powers from the basic power set and from the power set you decide to purchase your way into. Every rank that you obtain past rank 1, you're going to be able to have either 4 or 5 new powers. How does this work? If you decide to go into a new power set, you will have access to all of the powers inside of it, provided you meet their prerequisites, and that means that you will get 4 new powers at that rank. But if you decide to go into no new power set, simply keep getting powers in the power sets you're already in and basic powers, then you can decide to have 5 new powers at that rank, which is pretty fantastic. But what happens if you decide that you don't want to utilize one of the powers you have access to at this rank? This might happen. What if you don't go into a new power set, which means you have access to 5 powers, and you only need 4 right now? You pick up the 4 and you have a 5th one. I would not simply pick up a power that I don't really care about just to pick something. Instead, you can, if you want to, forego taking a power and instead take either a trait or take any ability score and bump it by a +1. As you level up your character, you are going to be going into possibly a new power set every rank. If you do, add 4 powers. If you do not go into a new power set, add 5 powers. You can forego a power to pick up either an additional trait or bump an ability score by a +1. And then you're just adding powers in order to get to powers you want, fulfilling the prerequisites, and adding flavor and interest to your character, which is awesome. The next thing to take a look at is your karma. Your max karma is always equal to your rank, though you can have a karma value that is higher than your rank if you get karma from your narrator because of choices you make during gameplay. Karma can be expended to allow you to have an edge or re-roll 1 dice from an action check, to force an enemy to re-roll 1 dice from their action check, or you can expend a point of karma to do a recovery check for either health or focus. Karma resets after a long rest or a full night's sleep, and then it goes back to your max value. Now, it goes back to your max value, so if you ended the day above max value, it would actually come down to be a number equal to your rank. So it's kind of a use it or lose it scenario. Karma can, as I said, be awarded to you by your narrator for good decisions in gameplay. So engage with your character, really make decisions that make sense for your character, engage with the world, and you will likely be rewarded with more points of karma, which will allow you to re-roll things more often or do additional recovery checks. Now let's take a look at speed as we are building our characters. We need to decide a size. The default size is average for a character, but there are traits, big and small, which make you larger or smaller sized creatures. And this might be interesting for flavor purposes, but you do start out without any alterations to a character being an average size character, which is the size of just a normal adult human. An average size character has 25 feet of movement speed, but please note that in the core rulebook, movement speed is given in squares on a grid. Each square is 5 feet, so an average size character is also said to have 5 squares worth of movement. That movement, it's important to point out, specifically is running movement or ground movement, but there are lots of types of movement in this game. An average-sized character has 25 feet of movement speed, but you are defaulted to have a climbing speed, a swimming speed, and a jumping speed. Please note, jumping speed is how much you can jump horizontally. It does not imply any vertical amount that you can jump. So the jumping speed, swimming speed, and climbing speed are half of your running speed, and this is rounded up. So an average character without any powers that alter these other forms of movement has 13 feet of climbing, swimming, or horizontal jumping. Now, this is not the only types of movement in the game. There's flying, there's swinging on webs, but these are things that you are able to get through additional powers. Additionally, there are ways of increasing your jump speed so that it jumps horizontally farther and you have a vertical jump, but that is yet another power to take. So these are the movement types you have initially, and all of those movement speeds are based off of your running speed, which for an average size character is 25 feet. Please note that the average size character has 25 feet of movement speed, but that is before any alterations. Specifically what I'm talking about is that if you have a character that is bigger than average, it adds speed. For every size bigger you are than average, you add 5 feet of movement speed. For every size you are smaller than average, you subtract 5 feet of movement speed from the character. Additionally, every 5 points of agility you have adds 5 feet of movement speed. So there are 2 ways to increase your movement speed. Next, we're going to take a look at initiative. If you are new to TTRPGs, when you roll initiative, it is to create a turn order during a sequence of events where everyone is trying to act at the same time. This is usually combat, but not always. In this game, your initiative modifier is your vigilance ability point. So if you have, for instance, 4 points of vigilance, it means you would have a +4 modifier to initiative rolls and 120 points of focus. Those two things are connected. I'm going to just iterate here for everybody that as you level up, you're going to add 1 point of karma and make sure that your max karma is equal to your rank. You are then automatically going to gain 1 new trait, and you can choose 4 new powers if you decide to go into a new power set. If you forego a power set, you can have 5 new powers. If you forego one of those powers, you can have a new trait or 1 additional ability score bump wherever you would like to place it. As long as your powers are something that you have access to the power set and you meet the other prerequisites, you can choose pretty much whatever you want. And that is the way that we build and level up characters in this game. I hope that this has been of help to you in building your characters. It's a pretty straightforward process to be able to build what you want. The hardest part is searching through all of the different powers you have access to and choosing stuff that you really like. There's tons of great powers in this game. Take some time and talk to your narrator and see if the two of you can figure out powers and power sets that bring your idea to life. I'm going to be building characters and discussing powers and power sets on this channel to talk about things that seem really exciting to me. So until next time, YouTube's made out of buttons. Press some of them and take care.